Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of The Hero's Journey. I'm Joel Sadler, and this is Mike Harris, and we are your
Hello.
hosts for the day. Today, we're going to talk about the awareness of state and moving through the 3 different states. So, to start with, I've got a bit of a funny story to share today, and that was it was my birthday yesterday, and so I was on a bit of a high and went out with the family, had a good time, and enjoyed some good food and laughs and that sort of thing. So I was in a bit of a heightened state, I suppose, or a good state. And then this morning was my morning to look after the kids, and I forgot about that. So it means getting up early with the kids. So I got 2 1-year-old and a 4-year-old. And then also I'd been working late, got a little bit of a cold. I've been working late to about like 1 o'clock last night, trying to get our first podcast ready to roll, which succeeded, which is great. Obviously needs a lot of work, but first one's ready to roll. And then, so got up ready to record this here, and I was running late. The kids were still here, which I forgot. So there might be a bit of background noise. The video didn't upload to YouTube last night. I was a bit sort of manic, and I was in this sort of state of like, a bit of anxious, running late, just like, oh my gosh, like all these problems are sort of stacking up. And then I like caught myself and I was like, hang on a minute. This is part of the hero's journey. And I realized I'll get Mike to explain the 3 different states in a minute, but I realized that I was in the lower state and that I was beating myself up for being late, that forgetting that the kids might be here and might barge in at any time. Just sort of flogging myself a bit, and and so I was like, hang on, nipped it in the bud, stopped there. And I was like, I'm going to have a cold shower. And we'll talk about that as well. So I jumped in the shower, I had a 10-minute window, 5-minute window, jumped in the shower, whipped it on cold, freezing. If you don't know, we're in New Zealand here. So it's winter time here. So it's blooming cold. It's like an ice bath cold. The water comes from underground. So you straight
Oh
away, you're
yeah.
like, and you have to breathe and your body goes into this crazy tingly state. And it was awesome. But I think the key takeaway was the awareness. It was like I had that awareness to kind of go, actually, this is what's happening right now, and take back control of the steering wheel instead of like this, blooming car just careening left and right, and all these emotional highs and lows controlling my reactions. I could actually respond powerfully and go, hang on a minute, I'm aware that this is happening. Breathe, have the cold shower, reset, and turn up today on the call in a powerful state, which is what we've talked about before, instead of in a whingy state. And I could have whined to Mike and I have had some awesome whining sessions over the years, haven't we, Mike?
Oh
Especially
fuck
before
yeah.
we sort of got into this work pretty deep.
Yeah. Fucking I don't
And
think the whining sessions are going to finish.
no,
They're going
exactly.
to pop up every now and then.
Yeah, they're always there,
Yeah.
But yeah. So do you want to add to that, Mike, and sort of explain to our listeners, about kind of what I suppose technically was going on for me at that stage, and any other stories you've got to add to that as well?
Yeah, sure. So what you're referring to then is the
Mm.
as far as the 3 different states was the polyvagal theory, which is essentially looking at your nervous system and where it sits.
Yeah.
And at the base of that, of in that the 3 stages is something called dorsal. And dorsal's essentially where you're feeling like your life is under threat. So you're in freeze, fawn, like your body feels like you just can't move, or you're in total apathy.
Yeah.
And you've just got nothing in you that wants to get up and go. And essentially it's a place where people disassociate as well, and they'll just like, fuck, I can't move, or it's just so hard, or I don't want to get out of bed, or
Right.
oh, it's just too much. That's dorsal.
Right. And
And
people can be stuck there, for
oh
ages, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. A lot of people that are have been through some, really traumatic experiences, for example, are
Yeah.
in dorsal a lot of the time. And this is where it's really interesting too. If we look at different approaches for that, because people aren't by and large, they're not kind of willing to take responsibility. They seek outside of themselves, and this is where people end up going to a doctor and getting a pill because things aren't right or they're not feeling well. This is
Mhm.
not medical advice, but I think, when you start looking out externally, when you're in a state, when you're feeling depressed or really down and out, and you're looking externally for a solution, it doesn't really empower you as a person. But it's a matter of looking within. But dorsal, yes, dorsal's like we're all going to get there, and it serves a purpose too. It's part of our nervous system. It's part of our makeup, and when you're in that state as well, it's just what's really important is just to acknowledge that you're in there, and to allow yourself to feel that, which is tough sometimes. What I used to do is beat the shit out of myself, and I think we've talked about this too, is that when you're feeling down or you're feeling out, you'd be like, oh, fuck, I shouldn't be feeling this way. Oh, why am I like this? And so then you go on a further spiral down, because now you're minimizing yourself and shaming yourself that I shouldn't be this way. And so that compounds it and forces you to even feel worse than where you were, and lower your vibration like completely.
Yeah.
So that's that. You were going to say something?
Like I've lived through that, and I think as I've become more aware of that, and I catch myself or recognize that I'm in that sort of spiral down scenario, when having gone through that sort of dorsal experience and being aware of, hopefully most of the time now what's going on. For me, it used to drag out sometimes for a certain number of days, or and I can also see it now in people around me. I can you can almost sort of feel it. You can see they're
totally
sort of stuck in that space, even in their languaging and way of being. And I think that awareness part is so powerful, because you can then obviously make an effort to then, support someone or help lift them up. It's always tricky because you can't save them, obviously, but you can kind of just try to encourage them. But also for self, just being aware and then being able to change the state.
Yeah,
like I shared
100%.
earlier.
That awareness on yourself and where you are, without making it wrong. That's the key distinction.
Yes.
Like just having the awareness without making it wrong is absolutely crucial for you to actually allow yourself to move up and out of that place. And interestingly, when you're in dorsal and you're feeling apathetic and life's under threat and you just don't want to move, one of the most important things to do in that state is to move, is to get up, is to take a cold shower, or go for a walk or a run and get the body moving. And that's the thing you actually feel least like doing when you're in that state. So it's so counterintuitive when you're in there, because you're like, I just don't want to do anything. But that's the very thing that's required to get you up and out. And it's interesting too, because you look at that and you go, okay, well, I think we've talked about this briefly before, and this will come up a lot, but it's like choose your pain in that moment. And it's
just
harder
to say.
Yeah, and it's harder it's harder to, when you're in there, it's like building a muscle and having that awareness to be able to see yourself objectively versus just being stuck inside where you are, and it really is like building a muscle to build that awareness out for yourself.
Just getting goosebumps on that part where you said choose your pain. Can you dig into that? I'll share an example for say with the listeners. So for me, after, and hats off for Mike's really helped me understand. I knew and I was aware to a certain extent of some of these states and moving through them, but I hadn't practically ever applied. I kind of had in a way, but never to this level of depth, applied learning and an awareness to actually, controlling the response, controlling my response. I think the key thing that I wanted to share there was the sort of eating. So if I was in a bit of a dorsal state or feeling a bit like life was heavy or work was busy or there was a concern with the kids, and one that really used to get to me was when the kids would get sick. Like I would feel so disempowered as a father, when my kids really crook, and it was just sort of, I couldn't necessarily handle that. And so I'd comfort eat. And so my comfort food's crackers and cheese at night, the good old hummus, pesto, wee bit of mayo, hot sauce, whatever, Yeah. And so my weight would fluctuate and I'd be popping these crackers at night just to kind of, as you said, choose my pain. My pain, or the way that I dealt with that, was to comfort myself, and then obviously I was stuck in that. And the last thing I wanted to do was go and, as you were, suggesting to me, is, hey, why don't you just, as you become aware of that, actually then choose to go to the gym or hit the boxing bag or whatever. The last thing I was wanting to do was that at all. I wanted
Totally.
comfort. I didn't want to go, So what's it? So, can you talk to that piece a little bit, and what are some tools that people can kind of help them move out of that state? Obviously, we talked about the cold showers, but that's not always practical. What's a way that someone can kind of just simply
Oh, you could listen to some
change?
music, some uplifting music, something that's going to change
Yeah,
your vibration as well, something that you've got an
yeah,
attachment to that, because
true.
music's a very strong anchor and it's very emotive.
Yeah,
And we're energetic beings and music's energy. So if you listen to something that you knows that you have a previous great experience on that's anchored in there,
yeah,
you can use some really good music. You can just go for a walk, or just get yourself up moving. If you can't exercise or do anything like that, just moving or music.
yeah,
Um, and even taking yourself away and just doing some breathing with some music to get yourself kind of into a different state. Because
mm,
you've got to move your way up the chain. And so
yeah,
after dorsal is your sympathetic, which is the sympathetic nervous system turns on.
yeah,
And that essentially is your fight or flight. And so that's the get shit done space, essentially. And so you can have a combination of dorsal and sympathetic,
yeah,
which is really, again, where a lot of people are operating from. They're kind of in that daily mundane. They're not feeling right. That they're out of authenticity with themselves. Perhaps they're not living into their highest values or priorities. They've injected some other values into them that they're then living through, and they feel like they're not being true to themselves, and they're kind of
yeah,
minimizing themselves. And when you're in that sympathetic, you're either going to fight, or you're going to like turn on to fight, like there's an
yeah,
attacker, an aggressor,
yeah.
or you're going to want to run. You're going to want to
Right.
run away from this potential threat.
Yeah,
And so you can imagine that with the apathy aspect, and that there it can be like quite heavy as well, but you're actually
yeah.
able to keep going. You're able to keep
Mm.
moving to get stuff done. Um, and so
And
your goal is to move up into that. So you're actually out of that apathy, out of the freeze response into that fight flight response,
yeah,
essentially.
and
Yeah.
and that's where the cold showers is moving from that dorsal to sympathetic, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's
as I was saying, and
definitely
that,
one of the ways to get you on. Like you feel, I've been cold showering for 4 years now, or
yeah,
just over 4 years. And it took me about 6 months to really get used to it, because you'd have a cold shower a
mm.
couple of days and you're like, oh, I just want to go back to that comfort, and you'd have a warm one again.
Yeah,
Whereas now I can just
mm.
religiously. And the other day when it snowed here, I still had a cold shower, and
Yeah,
god damn, it was cold. Like it was cold. Like you're almost so cold you feel it burning your skin. And
yeah,
but I tell you, there's only like 3 or 4 seconds of trepidation, that a little
mm.
bit of angst, and it's a little bit of kind of excitement too, because you know what's
Mm.
going to come, but you kind of want to resist it. But
Yeah,
once you push through that little piece,
yeah,
it's like, back home again. It's kind of this refreshing, and you feel your whole
mm.
system come online, and I feel my brain come online. Um,
Mm.
and it's interesting. So those little spaces where you're like having to work through, and this is where that choosing your pain comes in.
Yeah,
In that little space where you're looking at the shower lever to turn it on or off, it's
yeah,
like that's the moment where it's like, well, it's easy to revert back to comfort, right? But in that moment, you've
yeah,
got to choose your pain, because we can't
yeah.
avoid pain. We can't avoid challenge. It's going to show up.
Ah, yeah,
So we either lean into it at that moment and control it, and
yeah,
control our dopamine by not just seeking that pleasure all the time, but by
mm.
going back and actually choosing something that's hard to then reset those dopamine levels. Or we migrate in and we give up and give in, which is the
Mm.
slippery slope to just seeking comfort and avoiding pain and seeking pleasure,
Yeah,
which doesn't take us anywhere
100%.
productive, really.
Oh, yeah, like funny thing on the cold showers. So, I think I've shared this with you before, but we're talking about a journey here, right? And so for me,
Mm,
the cold showers were awesome for about a week. I was on this bus, yeah, in the cold shower, jumping in, and
yeah.
I'd turn it straight to cold and then just sort of inch my way in and kind of jump under and then jump back and then lather up and then jump under and stuff. And it was real funny. Like I remember, if you've come across John Kehoe, obviously. For those that haven't heard about John Key, I definitely recommend looking up his work. It's amazing. But he talks about the mind is like the great trickster, and how, be aware of how the mind tries to trick us around certain situations. And so my mind, my great trickster, was coming up and sort of saying, "Oh, the shampoo doesn't wash off properly in the freezing cold water," and it doesn't. It kind of clumps in your hair. Well, and conditioner clumps as well.
I don't have that problem.
Yeah. Well, but yeah, so it clumps in your hair, and soap doesn't sort of lather up or respond the same as it does with warm water.
Mm.
And so it was quite interesting, that experience. And so my mind was kind of like, oh, well, have a warm shower today because you need to wash yourself properly or whatever. And so what I've actually ended up doing, or sometimes, is actually starting off with a warm shower and having a good wash off, and then slowly inching it up and then whacking around to cold, and it just triggers that fight or flight. And I've been testing, because in my role, right, I don't know if I'm technically doing it right, but in my role, I'm always refining and improving marketing, digital marketing techniques and data and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I realize is, with the cold shower, if I get out and I don't feel warm, it hasn't worked. It hasn't triggered that proper response. So I was kind of fooling myself and turning the sort of handle halfway to cold, and it wasn't lukewarm, it was cool, and I'd get out and I'd feel a bit chilly. So you have to definitely whack it round to that full cold ice bath, bloody, like it's like full noise cold, and that's what gets that response, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's interesting because if I've done a warm one, like a warmish one, it might the only time I do warm now, I can't remember if I said before, is in the evening when I want to go into rest and digest and turn my parasympathetic nervous system on, which means it's like rest time.
Yeah.
Or if I've been to the gym and I don't want to destroy my growth hormone production, because if you go cold, it basically minimizes that and minimizes inflammation, which you actually need to help to create muscle growth and repair and have the growth hormone present. So but when I do that after the gym and it's kind of warmish, you feel like it's almost like you've done yourself out. I feel like I've done myself out of the full benefit, but at the time, that's why I'm choosing to do that. But it's interesting how easy it is to over time anchor in, those neural pathways of, okay, this is what it is now. This is what it is now, because you've just done it over and over and over and just get used to it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I would say, one thing for my journey, I'd say one thing to people listening is, like, give the cold showers a go. I was telling a friend about it the other day, and obviously, we've talked about these same stats. I don't have them on hand right now, but something like the length of the buzz from a cold shower is more than cocaine, isn't it? I think it was compared.
I saw something like that floating around.
Yeah.
I think it was something like the dopamine response to doing cocaine was like 2.5 hours, whereas with the cold shower it went for hours and hours and kind of built up.
So I have to look that data up, obviously, check its authenticity. Totally. But it definitely gives you a good blimmin' slap around. It's like, wake up, buddy, and you're like, when you're there, it's amazing.
Yeah, you come online. Like I just, it's like my being comes online, my brain comes online. And interestingly enough, now too, when I have a warm shower, a hot shower, if it's in the evening, you can feel that. I feel the inflammation. You feel almost the inflammation. I feel my brain start to want to go to sleep, and I'm like, great if you want to rest, but like for people having warm or hot showers in the morning, that's not the ideal way to start the day to get you in purpose and get you on point. It just isn't.
Oh, definitely. And I've found that, because I used to have a warm shower, and then grab a coffee and then even have a second coffee or whatever. But I've found that the need, like I'm also journeying through how much coffee I need at the moment, because I'm quite a big coffee drinker. And so I'm just sort of measuring that.
I love my coffee.
Yeah, but and nothing against coffee, but I do think it can impact the gut health. So that's what I'm exploring at the moment, and working on that. But the point is like the cold shower is such a wake up impact and ready to go sort of feeling, is that I've found it reduces the need for the coffee, which is quite interesting observation, where having that warmer shower, still quite sleepy. The shower sort of wakes you up. I sort of feel warm. I've wrapped myself in some warm water and get my clothes on, coffee, bang, ready to go. But the cold shower, I'm already there, already there, straight, ready to go.
Yeah.
Kids, wife, work, whatever it is, bang, bang, bang,
Boom, you're on point. You're on.
Yeah,
you're on.
yeah.
Game face.
Yeah, totally.
So if we go then back to where we were, when because we digress, but that's all good. That's what happens when you're having a good conversation. So
just a
when
little
you go
point I'll put on there. Sorry, one last point.
Yeah.
I tested it out. Also,
like I know where you're going with this. I could tell by the look you've got on your face.
I'm going to share it. So it works really, really well as well if you're having some intimate time and it's later at night and you're quite tired, but you really want to sort of perform or take the opportunity or whatever. Have a freaking cold shower. It's awesome. Straight away, bang, you're on. You're like, oh, and you're that fight or flight that you're charged up and you're ready to rock. That's all I'll say.
Interesting that really helped you, because I would have thought too, when you go into fight or flight, that's the last thing you're wanting to do. But if it woke you up, I completely understand that.
Yeah. I think it was just sort of, I think, because, as you get older, you wind, well, I don't know, but yeah, with busy lives and kids and all that stuff, kids are to bed. No, I'm not that old, but you know what I mean? Like, I can't remember why I was feeling just a bit tired, I think. And so jumped in the shower and it was great. And it was, Did
you have trouble sleeping afterwards, after having the cold shower?
No, because I think from what I've read about that, about sex and being intimate and that sort of thing, that whole experience, the endorphin release and all that good feeling vibe and all that. Oxytocin then takes over. And then after you're just like, so it was fine. Yeah.
You've achieved the outcome. It's time to rest now. You've spread your seed. The man can lay his head on the pillow.
Exactly. Off you go.
Yeah. So segueing back then, once you get into sympathetic, that is getting stuff done. So you're going to go into your fight, as I said before, to avoid, or to try and defend off a predator or being consumed.
Yeah.
This is the part of the mind, the primitive mind that's been around for a long time, that serves us to protect us. This is all there to protect us and keep us safe, essentially. It's just that sometimes it's coming online and we don't need it to come online to the degree, because we're perceiving a threat that is like going to put us in danger. Our nervous system comes on, doesn't know that it's not really in danger, but still perceiving the threat. And so that's when it turns on. So dorsal sympathetic is a combination of where you're in apathy and you're in that fight flight and not in a good state. When you get into sympathetic, then you're on, just get shit done.
Yeah.
And then from sympathetic, you move up into ventral.
Yeah.
Now, ventral is, and you can't be in one of these all the time. You're going to fluctuate. Ventral is the key place to be, or a combination of ventral sympathetic. When you're in ventral, that's where your parasympathetic turns on. So again, it is you're open, you feel safe. Your nervous system can regulate. It's time to eat. It's time to rest. It's time you're open to new ideas. You're receptive. And from a place of ventral, that's the best time to be communicating with someone around new ideas or looking at problem solving, for example, because when you're in those other states and your nervous system's on, anything that's coming in perceptually to you has been filtered through the state that you're in. So although perception precedes everything, perception leads to thoughts, which leads to feelings and emotions and then actions.
Yeah.
When you're in a state already and you're activated, because you're activated, whenever you're perceiving that thing from that space, it's going to be filtered there, and you're going to then interpret it a certain way based on where your nervous system is.
Right. Yeah. That
so
makes
then,
sense.
Obviously, if you're trying to repair it from an argument, or you're trying to talk reason to someone that's in dorsal or in sympathetic, and they're in fight or flight, and their guard's up, and they feel like they're under threat.
Yeah.
And you're trying to then have a conversation about trying to repair something or sort something out. That's not the best place to be. It's better to go regulate yourself first,
Yeah.
so that your nervous system is relaxed and that theirs is, it's a good time for them as well. And then you engage with a conversation, for example. So having that awareness of where you are, particularly in a relationship or where you are from day to day, it's really key for understanding yourself and giving yourself what you need at the time. And no matter where you are on that chain, on that paradigm, it's allowing yourself to feel it. Really allowing yourself just to acknowledge and letting yourself know that it's safe to feel it. I'm allowed to feel it. It's okay to feel it. And I give myself permission to feel it. Because when you give yourself permission and you lean into it, now you're actually acknowledging it's there. And now it's not going to run you the same. Whereas if you try and bury it or you shame yourself, whatever you resist is going to persist because you're like trying to get away from it. But by trying to get away from it and shaming yourself, you're actually giving it more energy and you're actually taking yourself on a downward spiral.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
That point that you made was critical and been a massive part of the hero's journey or my journey, in my life, is particularly in showing up in the household for my family. So in the way that I show up, so I had all of these. So this is where the historical, childhood kind of stuff comes into play as well, and those default tapes that are playing. For example, I would try to talk to Nalka about something, and the time, looking at it now, the time that I'd pick would be like when she's, in sympathetic, basically fight or flight mode, running around the house, trying to get the kids ready for dinner. And I spoke to, a woman mentor of mine, and she's like, man, women have like 20 million things going on their head. They've got to get the bag packed for the kids' lunch tomorrow. They've got to get the dinner ready. The kids are, and so I'd sort of bowl up into that point and just expect, Nalco totally to connect with me on not on a real deep level, but on a semi-deep level about something, oh, I read this or talk about this. And she's just kind of look at me and like, and I took that, would get offended as in, oh, you're not listening to me, or why you're not listening to me, and she doesn't respect me, and all this.
All your shit comes up.
All my shit comes up, And it was just like, man, and like it was just simply a timing issue, being aware that actually, hang on a minute, she's probably in that ventral sympathetic state, doting on the kids, but she's, in fight mode, doing stuff, getting things ready, just in that busy space. And so that was a massive learning for me, and for guys like that are as blonde as me, and those it comes naturally to some guys, is just be aware that actually, well, your partner, just pick the right time, it's a much better state. And then on the other side of things, it doesn't work for me to try and talk to her about the stuff when she's like fully wound down and like half asleep, because then she falls asleep.
If she's half asleep, that's and so to go easy on yourself will be fair on yourself too, and for anyone else. And I was the same, like far out. I look back at how I was trying to solve things at times, and it's like fuck. Because when you don't know what you don't know. And so it's not until you have a conversation like this, or you hear it, or you learn something, that you get to pull the veil back and go, oh, far out, when you're in it, and I look back as well at some of the times where I felt like I wanted to solve something wasn't right. And, and I'd go and it was the wrong time. And my partner's nervous system was activated. They were on fight or flight. And I'm trying to keep solving their guards up, and then it's just like, And when you do that, it's interesting what you just touched on. Your own wounds and shit comes up. So if you had issues around feeling like you weren't listened to, or you weren't heard, or you weren't validated or understood, like that's that's what would activate in me. It would just trigger that, and then your nervous system comes on because you've been reminded, like, fuck, I'm not being heard or validated or listened to, and then you'd like arc up, and so just end up in cycle. This massive And so one of the things I really learned, in recent months is if you're feeling activated and that you're pissed off, and energetically you can feel it within yourself, like you can feel your energy, right? When you're in that place, it's really important to take some time and first regulate before communicating, regulate before communicate, so that you are in a resourceful state, that you're coming from a balanced place, a place of love, not from a wound, not from a place of wanting to get in there because of your own shit, but from a place of like, okay, I've regulated myself, I'm balanced, I can go in and meet that person now if they're in the right space as well.
Oh, definitely. And I also found that sometimes, taking that time out, just for example, just the point of recognizing what time to raise certain topics, for discussion. We now have a weekly a family planning meeting.
Yeah,
Every
nice.
Tuesday at 8 o'clock, we catch up and we, sometimes it might be like a 5 minute conversation on something to do with the kids or whatever. Other
Yeah,
times it's an hour, where we sit down and plan a trip that we might be doing, or what are the key, like we're going on a snowboarding trip soon, like what do we actually need for that trip, just a quick list, and we talk about it and all that sort of stuff.
awesome.
So that's been a really powerful tool.
Yeah,
I've seen people over the years do it, and I've also seen people sort of poo-poo that as well. But we've found it really productive because we're busy. We're very busy, passionate people with what we do. So just carving out that time to sit down and go, okay, let's talk about family stuff.
yeah.
But also talk about other things of interest as well.
Yeah.
That
Look, I think
just
that's a bloody awesome idea. And it's highly
yeah
conscious and aware of you to do that in the sense that you're
mm,
creating a space, a container at that moment. And,
yeah
obviously between you and your partner and anyone else that wants to do this, you have the parameters and what's discussed in that
yeah
space.
yeah
Is that the safe space and time to bring up stuff that has been working well and appreciation for each other, but also some of the
mm,
things that, hey, need to be addressed. And
mm,
really going in, I think what's crucial is going in together from a place of like, I love you, you love me,
mm,
we want the best for each other. And this is about our empowerment as a
mm,
couple and as
yeah
individuals and our growth and evolution together. And
mm,
really having
mm,
that understanding that if one of the people brings something up, one of the partners brings something up to the other partner, it's like, well, if that intention is coming from a place of love and wanting to grow together, then and both are on board with that, it'll be received that way. And
yeah
to me, that's
yeah
one of the most
mm,
important foundations of a relationship, that you can be objective with each other from a place of love. And when your
yeah
partner points that thing out, is be willing to, it can be confronting because when you
mm,
get
mm,
those things come up, sometimes it
mm,
can trigger you, right? Because
yeah
blind spots or these shadows, these things we have may have guilt, shame around, or we haven't wanted to address yet, can
yeah
make you feel kind of a certain way. But if you kind of understand and you create that framework together, you get to go, okay, this just is what it is. I know they're
yeah
here to love me. They're not here to try and pull me down.
mm,
And now we can use this to help evolve as a couple
yeah
and me as an individual.
oh
Um,
definitely. Well,
yeah,
we spoke about how different the world would be, and or relationships if everyone understood the dorsal sympathetic ventral polyvagus, is it polyvagus,
polyvagal theory. Yeah,
yeah, vagal theory, like and that what we're talking about today, that awareness or state of awareness, it's so empowering, it's so
oh, big
empowering,
time. Yeah,
and like it's, as you said, it's like a muscle. It's something, I'm learning. I have to practice and I'm not perfect at it. Like I got triggered by something I shared with you the other day around the towel situation and all that sort of thing. And I'll quickly share that now. But that was where when my partner moves the towels to wash them, she doesn't replace the towel.
yeah,
And so I'm in the shower, naked, having a shower, jump out, and I'm like, it's no bloody towel. And so I lost my shit, not aggressively at her, but she could feel the energy. And I went and stormed and got some towels. And I said, I'm putting these towels in the drawer in the bathroom. Can you leave them there? Because
damn it.
damn it.
Yeah.
And it was sort of my way actually of losing my shit, but I sort of controlled the way I did it. And
Like
what
a
I
little
learned
bit passive, a
after,
little bit passive
it
aggressive,
was
eh?
passive
Like
aggressive.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
gonna have
yeah.
you know that I'm pissed off, but not
Yeah,
really tell you.
exactly. It was that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she knew. And I was like, well, and then I sort of unpacked that, and there was some stuff from the past when I was a kid and all that. And it wasn't really about the towels. It was, I made it sort of like, oh, you don't love me enough to hang my towel up on the thing, It was all this sort of stuff, Anyway, I got to the heart of the matter, but I think the key point of it is that is being aware at that time. I the even though I went to that sort of fight or flight mode and reacted
Mm.
without being aware, I actually did. halfway through talking to her. So halfway through my rant, I was kind of like, oh gosh, I just realized halfway through it, and I was just like, oh, I feel like a kid. And it was
Yeah, well,
really
that's the
funny.
thing. Just
Yeah.
on that, just to jump in, like, how old
Yeah.
did you feel at that moment? Like, if you just check back.
Oh, I think it was 8 or 9. And what was really
Yeah,
funny is I shared this with her afterwards when we were laughing about it, and she said, "Yeah, you were just like a little kid."
yeah. That's exactly what happens. Like that all that stuff is just
Yeah,
the nervous system
yeah,
turning back on from an old trigger, an old trauma that happened.
yeah,
And we literally, in those moments, when we get activated, we go back to that moment where we learned that. So literally, we
yeah,
become a child again because we
yeah,
haven't learned to regulate that part.
yeah.
It's yeah,
So yeah, it was essentially, I suppose what I'm saying is like that was I wouldn't say a failure, but an example of where I wasn't aware of what was going on at the start, and I let myself react as opposed to respond,
yeah,
And so that's an example of the other side of the coin, where I could have
mm,
felt that and gone, actually, hang on a minute, what's going on here right now? I've gone to sympathetic. I'm feeling angry. What's really going on? And taking a minute just to sort of reset, And that's my point, is that I'm learning to do that. In some cases, I'm winning and achieving that. Some
sure,
cases, I'm not. But the times where I'm not, it's also bringing a whole lot of learning. Obviously, I
absolutely,
might flog myself for a little bit, and I understand that's another, self beating up sort of thing or whatever going on. But it's also providing opportunities for me to laugh with my wife about it afterwards,
yeah.
and just see the funny side of it.
Which, if you look at it, man, like look, 6 months
Yeah,
ago, did you have the awareness to even do that afterwards? To
yeah.
fully own where you're at and then like embrace it and go, oh yeah,
No,
yeah,
no, I would have been too embarrassed or too. I might have understood a little bit what's going on, but I would have just felt. I think the awareness has been so powerful because it allows me to be more vulnerable in a powerful way, though, to
yeah,
have that conversation and kind of go, it wasn't that funny. I was acting like a little shit of a kid, having a
yeah,
wee tantrum, and then you can
yeah.
just laugh about it because it's true,
Yeah. And
and
to just to add to what you said
mm,
too,
yeah,
there is no perfect. There's always a work in
yeah,
progress.
yeah,
None of us, no matter how much we know, are ever going to be completely triggerless. Like things are still going to trigger, but the
yeah,
more you do the inner work, the more you
yeah,
integrate these parts, the more you understand, then the triggers become less, or that requires something bigger in
yeah,
order to activate you because you've learned how to self-govern and to manage those things. And so
yeah,
when you have a rupture, which will happen with
mm,
yourself,
mm,
it's like how you repair that,
yeah,
and you get you become faster and more efficient at repairing that part and going back through and giving some love and appreciation to that part of yourself that came up.
yeah. Yeah, because what we are, for the listeners, the interesting part obviously was that around the towels, in my case, there was a situation, as a child sort of thing that I had to then, as Mike said, go back and heal and repair
Yeah.
and understand and sort of break it down. It only took like 20 minutes. And then it's kind of like, whoa. So now that learning's with me for life. The
Yeah.
cool part that I get is that there's two things going on. Is one is the jumping into that state and the reaction, but then there's doing the healing around what actually was going on at that point,
Mm.
and that's done. And now looking forward is I can be very aware and respond way more powerfully to that situation. I still might get triggered, obviously,
Yeah.
but I can get triggered and go, well, actually, hang on a minute. Okay,
Yeah.
just
What's this really
act a bit
about?
more powerfully. What's this? This is what's going on.
Mm.
Okay, just run out and grab a towel or yell out for a towel or whatever it is, and
Yeah.
just get on with it.
Yeah. And this
And
brings up
just
a really
yeah,
good point, man, is that the
mm,
triggers, this is something I want everyone to really get because
yeah,
a lot of people run from it or make it wrong. But when you get
yeah,
triggered, it is the access point or the doorway into yourself
yeah,
to give you an opportunity to heal a particular part. It's an opportunity
mm,
to grow and evolve. And I think, if you take one really important piece away from this is that
mm,
when you do get triggered or you feel shame or guilt or anger or whatever emotions there,
yeah,
it's like you utilize that as an access point to go, okay, what is this about me? because your trigger is your responsibility. It's not the other person. They're just a mirror for you. And so I really invite everyone to shift their association to when they get pissed off or triggered. Yes, in the moment, you're probably not going to be thinking calmly because you're going to like shut your prefrontal cortex down. You're going to lose your logic and rational mind in the moment if you're really triggered. But afterwards, when you've had time to regulate or you've calmed down, okay, what was that in there that really upset me, and where's that come from? And then you get to kind of journey in and uncover these parts of yourself so you can actually evolve.
Yeah, I love it. Love it.
Yeah, and it's a philosophy. I think that's a really important philosophy, one that I've adopted and had for a long time now, is that I know if we get a bit more esoterical and go on a bit more of a macro perspective, it's like, well, we're a soul having a human experience with senses, and that's what we're here to do. And, my belief is we're here to experience all these different things for us to evolve as a being, as a soul, and to take these lessons on. So, which actually segues me into a really beautiful thing that happened with me yesterday. After a meditation, it was a really nice meditation I had done that really connected me to the universe and to the earth, and went through it. And I just had this really overwhelming gratitude for myself. Like, I mean, I had tears. My vibration, I could feel my whole vibration come on. My just energy was just on. Like, I could actually feel it expand. And I actually just went to the mirror upstairs in my bathroom, and I truly connected with my soul. I don't know if any of you have tried this before, and it's a practice I'd heard to do, and I have done it on and off, where you look in the mirror and just give yourself affirmation or acknowledge yourself. Well, after doing this meditation last night, I went there, and everything else washed away as I stared into my eyes. And I really connected with my being, my soul. And I thanked myself. Really, it was interesting what came out of me. I thanked myself for finally showing up.
Wow.
And I remember saying that, and I just had tears, and I was like, just said, I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for finally showing up and doing the work, and having gone through this journey, and leaning in and honoring yourself and truly valuing yourself, to that degree for the first time in your life. And man, it was the most profound experience that I had of this just deep gratitude for me and love for me. And when I was doing that as well, again, my vibration, the frequency was just so high. And so it's that for me, I just wanted to share, it was such a pivotal moment for me. It was just yesterday. And so, as you do more and more work and you uncover things with yourself more, you get new layers of depth and understanding and appreciation. It's a forever ongoing process. We don't just get to a place and arrive there and everything's sorted. We're all going to have our challenges. We're going to have our ups, our downs. We're going to have triggers. We're going to have these things. But the more you do this work on yourself and love you for who you are truly, and connect with yourself, it's expansive. It's awesome. It takes work, but it's so worth it,
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share that. That was really beautiful for me. It was really special for me yesterday.
Oh, yeah. It's so powerful. So powerful in terms of, so that was a meditation in the mirror, you were saying, was it?
It was a guided meditation through one of my mentors. And then because I'd done it, and I was just there, and I was affirming some things and like visualizing some things, I just had this draw to go to a mirror, and just to connect with myself and just to acknowledge everything.
Wow, that's super powerful, because I know many people won't even be comfortable looking in the mirror at themselves into their own eyes. It's quite an interesting experience, isn't it?
Because it's so confronting. And I call them shadows, and the shadows are essentially all those things that you bury that you don't like about yourself. And when you really look in and you engage with yourself, all that stuff comes up. And if you're carrying anything there, like, oh, I don't want to see that. I don't want to, and so to continually do that and work on those pieces, though, to allow yourself to connect on that level, that's true self-love. That's true unconditional love right there.
Oh, definitely.
Warts and all, ups and downs, things that you've liked, you didn't like. It's just really having a deep appreciation for yourself.
And so that's that space of ventral, isn't it? Being in that state that sort of
Yeah,
balanced state
I was
and powerful state.
definitely in ventral then, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
yeah,
safe. I was safe. I
yeah,
had my heart was
yeah,
open. I was really full of gratitude and appreciation and love for self and just,
yeah,
you know, my journey thus far.
yeah.
Yeah, it
You know,
doesn't matter where you are on your journey either, you know. I think it's really important to acknowledge this too, that
yeah,
if you've come this far, then you've overcome. I'm sure all of you, everyone's overcome challenges, right? We don't get through this life
yeah,
without having challenges. And,
mm,
you know, sure, you may felt that you didn't handle things as well as you could have, or they could have learned this or done that. But still, at the
mm,
end of the day, here you are, you're showing up every day.
yeah,
And so it's really important to acknowledge yourself that you are showing up still,
yeah.
and taking those steps. So
100%, 100%. Yeah, and it's
yeah.
about that journey, and yeah, it's
Yeah,
about the journey.
absolutely.
You
You
know,
know, when
two
we've been
steps
bantering
forward.
around
You know,
about that name,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
what we're going to call this is like, well, everyone's the hero of their own journey. And I think, you know, it's
yeah,
really important people acknowledge that they
yeah,
are the hero of their
yeah.
journey. It's up to them. And
And or heroine. You know, like it's I like
hero
the
in, yeah,
hero
yeah,
journey, the heroine's journey. Like
yeah,
it's just it encompasses all of humanity, and it's just such a powerful visual of like people's journey. And I really like the point that you made is that it's not necessarily about the destination. I mean, in a way, it is because you need a goal, or you need a destination that you're aiming for. For example, you know, that ventral state or being more balanced. But it's also about every day, you know, enjoying
mm,
every day. And as the key thing I'm learning is not beating myself up, but
yeah,
actually just going through the day, enjoying the day, being aware of things as they come up, but just having fun with it as well. I think that's the key thing. You know, it's quite a serious topic that we're talking about, and you know, deals with some deep challenges and
hmm,
issues that we have in our lives. But it's actually also fun. You know, and what's extremely powerful for me is connecting in that ventral state, being able to connect with authentic conversation. I think
mm,
Jordan Peterson talks about something about logos. Logos. I saw he was in an interview with a Muslim guy. I can't remember the names of them now, but and they were debating. It was sort of spirituality and all that sort of stuff. But Jordan Peterson mentioned the word logos. I think it was, where it's the spirit that kind of turns up, or energy that turns up, where we create, in essence, as we talk about these things in authentic conversation, something sort of magical happens, you know. And I
yeah,
think and I feel that at times in conversations, and definitely conversations we have in with multiple other people, it's something magical that happens where there are, you know, where I'm not in a dorsal state with all that baggage and all that sort of mind noise, you know, or a
mm,
sympathetic state, but it's just like I'm just present. I'm just
yeah,
grounded. I'm present. I'm showing up
yeah,
and just being authentic, and this magic just sort of flows. Isn't it amazing, eh? Getting sort of
yeah.
goosebumps just talking about it.
Yeah, when you get into that flow
Yeah.
state and you're
Mm,
connected and you're present,
mm,
you know, you really do connect to your like higher self. You connect, you know, you connect to the universe, and you
mm,
essentially become a vessel for the stuff to come through and out of you, you know.
mm,
And it's interesting just on this too. I think it's really important to acknowledge, like, one of the key principles that I found has helped me over the years, where I feel like I've really operated from,
yeah.
is just to acknowledge that we all have the same shit. Seriously, like, I've
Yeah.
been working and coaching people
Mm,
for a long time now,
mm,
and it's the same shit just wrapped up differently in a different
yeah.
package, but it's it's essentially the
Yeah.
same. And so
Yeah.
when you kind of can come
Mm,
to that place and arrive there,
mm,
it's like, fuck it, you know, I'm just going to like
mm,
look at this, because to then try and bury that or make out
yeah.
that you're trying to be one-sided and you don't have shit, it's just not true. And you end up gaslighting yourself and you end up
Mm,
minimizing yourself. It's like, just be authentic with what comes up. Be okay
mm,
that you are human and
yeah.
you're fallible, and there's things that have happened that you didn't like, and there's things that other people have done that you didn't like,
Mm,
but be okay with that, and just be okay with honoring yourself and being
yeah.
objective, to look within, own your stuff. And
Mm,
if you do that, it's the first step. That awareness and then ownership is the first step, and you growing and evolving
mm,
through the cycle that you're into, a new cycle and a
yeah.
new illusion and a
Yeah.
new growth.
Yeah.
and so it never stops. But it's but it's very liberating to arrive at that place and go, this is the journey, and I'm up for it, and I'm up for looking within.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So anyway,
All
if you
right.
want to wrap this up shortly, because I can think that's what that look was looking like. If we just cover and I'll wrap up the key parts.
Yeah, please.
Is that so? We were just talking about awareness. We've really talked about and building awareness is like building a muscle. Like so, you get to choose. There's a space between the stimulus coming in, like someone doing something to you, and you reacting and just going in there versus choosing to act. Like that takes time to build that muscle. We also talked about the polyvagal theory and the 3 different states, from dorsal, which is, freeze, life's under attack, I'm in danger, I can't move, I just want to, that place. Up into sympathetic, which is your fight or flight response, which is that gets you into action. And then from there, it was ventral, which is really your parasympathetic coming on, rest, digest, open to ideas, you feel safe. And just reminding everyone that you're going to experience all 3. You can't be in one all the time. So it's building the awareness to acknowledge where you are at that time and allowing yourself to feel and acknowledge it first. And then putting things in place to then move you up through the chain so that you can actually start to get yourself out of there. But the feeling of it and acknowledging of it is key first. So, and then obviously we talked about cold showers and the importance of that for those that are wanting to up their level of dopamine resetting, and again, leaning in to choose pain consciously versus avoiding it unconsciously and then winding up in some other pain somewhere. So I think, and for me, the cold shower has been like massive for me over the years. It's just like getting some control over yourself. That's one of those, it's like an increment of that.
So 100%.